Alright, so another episode of the DB podcast. So this is a dark podcast. When you gaze into the abyss gazes back into you, and whatever's within the darkness shines within the light. So go ahead and read the screen, because I ain't gonna repeat it. But when it comes to that, the cinema of Stranger Things, yeah. So the reason why they're able to cross dimensions like that in their original form is because they use portals. Those same portals that you seen inside the Stranger Things where they was going through the trees, they're not the only ones who come through the trees. Okay, but if you opening the portal versus the portal being already activated, it's not necessarily being open. It's truly called activation. Okay, when the portal is activated in a certain ley lines, which is energetic points like meridian points within the temple, or what mortals refer to as their bodies, things can come through it and jump into it. So, for example, when it comes to those trees and the activated portals within the trees, you may see Stranger Things and be like, oh, okay, so they coming through the trees and shit. They're not the only ones though. The other ones that come through the trees be extraterrestrials too, and also as well as other mortals, mortal created creatures as well that they don't necessarily all have a soul though, but one of them is the what people refer to as Sasquatches and Bigfoots and shit like that. Those are the previous um blood relatives to the mortals, Dravidians, Mongolians, and Neanderthals, the ones that came through the caves. So when they came through the caves, the reason why they came through the caves is because those were portals. When they were roaming around, what happened was when mortals came in contact with other mortals, type of mortals came in contact with them, because they're humanoids as well, not hominoids. Hominoids are Homo sapiens. Humanoids are mortals. Okay, because they have a spirit and a mind, which is why they refer to it as hue, because he was referring to the spirit. He was not referring to the colors, referring to the tone, like the the presence within the mind. And the only thing that's present within the mind of a mortal is a synthetic or a clone spirit, which is usually just a clone spirit and a synthetic mind. So they have the synthetic mind and the clone spirit, as emphasized in previous episodes, which is why they're referred to as humanoids, not hominoids. Okay, because Homo sapiens and Homo erectus are the reflection of the you could put it as like kind of like the fallen state of the gods and goddesses, and of basically just immortals incarnated. But anyways, whenever experiments were being done to create mortals, Sasquatches, what mortals refer to as Sasquatches and Bigfoots were created first, before them, in terms of like how mortals will view existence in a linear way, yeah, which is not real or true, and it doesn't even exist. But anyways, they found out how violent their cousins were, after kind of advancing, as mortals will put it, their consciousness, their awareness, their minds, which aren't organic or anything like that. And because the Sasquatches and the Bigfoots had a kind of deeper state of consciousness, because they existed within a deeper dimension. They were able to access the deeper dimensions within their minds, because they had basically they had different kind of like meridian and chakra points, whereas like mortals might only be able to reach or activate 7 chakras. They could activate like maybe 8, or something like that. And so that's why they were able to exist between the from the first to the fourth dimension, where sometimes even fifth and sixth, because they transcended the state of what humans refer to as primitive. And they were able to start talking and walking on feet, but they still had the appearances of that of primitive animals like apes, which were also related to Sasquatches and Bigfoots, but as well as related to the mortals. So, which is why Immortals being in their primitive state, they would go and kill anything that looked anything like them and didn't look like them. So, what happened is the Sasquatches and Bigfoots not wanting to fight, they ended up just transcending into a different dimension, and they was like, "Fuck that, we ain't staying down here." So that's when they went. It's actually not, but anyways, so that's when they started going through portals within caves, and as well as originally it was caves. That's how they got here from from the planet they were created in, before mortals existed, as mortals would put it, and then they decided, not decided, but they realized they could just use the portals through the trees, and they could just go into their own kind of like realms and dimensions where they all exist in, which is why when you do see any true sightings of one, they're only they're only traveling through here to get to a different dimension, or to get into the portal. Like they're only going there like kind of like how you kind of go hiking and then you go back to the crib type shit. It's like that. Like they was only chilling. But they don't like coming in contact with mortals, because mortals had the tendency even now to still want to kill them because they look like animals. But even though they're not, they can talk. They have a their pineal glands are activated like on some spiritual type of mortal hippie shit. So they were able to activate their you know artificial components that allow them to access the spiritual realms of that which mortals also go through, but access within their minds. But they didn't need to like be violent forever, or as long as mortals did are now, to kind of express themselves in that in their most authentic state, or in the state that they would be in if basically Sasquatches were to have been modified and mutated just like mortals were, the other mortals, the ones that are refer to themselves as humans. They would basically appear to be like big whitey, or fake Asians or fake Indian men, but just with a deeper state of consciousness. So they're kind of like, they would just be on some hippie shit, smoking, fucking meditating and shit, cause they transcended that state of mind of behaving like primates, which is where their genetics originated from. Now, there might be some claims that they have like souls and shit, but they probably just were able to kind of integrate with having a deeper state of consciousness, because their spirits, even though they either might have been cloned or synthetic, it's possible that they were able to, kind of either like build their collective spiritual connection, which is what allowed them to deepen their state of consciousness, or they were able to kind of acquire an organic spirit, even though they weren't able to, attain a true soul, which is why they're able to, like, even in their synthetic forms, or artificial forms, which is what mortals refer to as their body, they were still able to activate a deeper state of consciousness, which is why they were able to travel between like fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions. And then they're really deep within their consciousness, and that's not even like a deepest dimensions to access. It's just like, unlike mortals, they were not tempered. They found out they were being played out quicker, so they just didn't fuck around and find out type shit. Like, okay, like, we're just gonna trust whoever's trying to manipulate us into fighting the gods. We don't want to fight the gods, but we definitely don't want to kill our cousins over here type shit. So they just like, fuck this, to the trees type shit, for real. Like,